The other day I was watching an interview with Patrick Bet-David, and he was conducting with the Crown Prince of Iran, who was the son of the last Shah of Iran. And it was great. It was an amazing interview. I think it was like 2 hours long. And if you're really into this stuff, I highly recommend it because it's talking about basically Iran, what was Iran like back then, what were the factors that led to the downfall, including some sort of kind of conspiracy theory stuff that seemed more or less probable. Super interesting stuff. But the way he started that interview, Patrick Ray David, who again I'm a big fan of, and I like what they're doing at Valuetainment, and don't be surprised if in the next 10, 20 years, this is the new CNN of today. But the way he started that interview was he basically sold you on the reasons of why you should pay attention and why you should watch this, stick around for this two hour interview. And the way he sold it was, he was born in Iran, and obviously the consequences of Iran where it is today, trying to get nuclear weapons, which threaten the region, threaten the West, threaten the world. So the stakes are there. The personal connection to the story is there. And then it made me realize, wow, what is that? Why is that so interesting? Why did he do that? And I've been studying Patrick a lot over the last 2 or 3 years or so. And his story, right, where he says, basically he went from being born in Iran, escaping, moving to a refugee camp in Germany when he was 11, I think it was, finding his way to America, being a terrible student. I think he graduated high school with like a 1.4 GPA, joins the army, gets out, gets into sales, into bodybuilding. He has this massive chip on his shoulder that he wants to be someone, but like I said, he's the dumb kid in high school who goes to the army. What does this guy do? And he gets into sales, and he's very good at it, but he's overconfident, and he gets into a lot of debt, and he has this crossroads in his life where he says, okay, either I'm going to go back to the military and that'll be my life, or I'm going to fix my situation, pay off my debt, and make something out of myself. And he chooses the latter. And now he is who he is today. He's worth several $100 million. And as I said, he's going to be one of the top people in media in America. So never forget that name. And I was thinking about all that, and also the introduction that he was doing. And he's in there, he was with his suit. And what he was doing was, well, he was making you feel welcome into a sort of metaphorical house. And then I thought about that in the context of what it means to be a man. And frankly, I'm about to turn 40, and I think a lot about that because, well, what else should I be thinking about, right? My job is to be the best man that I can be. I am a man, and therefore I should maximize that. And I found that metaphor of creating this welcoming house perfect, because everyone wants to go to that house. Everyone wants to go to the house where they feel welcomed, where the hosts are paying attention to them and courteous and listening to them and really engaging with them and making them feel absolutely at peace and in perfect comfort, where the food is great and the drinks are the right temperature and they taste great and there's just nothing off. You want to go there again and again and again and again and again. And the conversation is just wonderful. And I strive for that in my personal life. I have a wife who who does 90% of the work, but I try to contribute my part of that bargain. And then I realized you can apply that mentality, that mindset to everything you do in your life. And that's what he was doing in the podcast. And I was like, oh, that's what it is. That's what I want to do with you guys. And so I thought I'd try it out and see how this goes. Now, Grisha, why did I interview Grisha? So Grisha I met when I was at Bloomberg, when I was, I think I was the bureau chief then. Yes, I was the bureau chief. Yeah. And I was working with a colleague on a story about the cement industry in Gaza. Things weren't as bad as they are now, of course. And Grisha, he spent his entire life, most of his life in the military. And then once he retired, he basically did deals with the Palestinians. Among them, he was working for Nesher, which was an Israeli cement company. But he knows the West Bank and Gaza pretty much better than anyone that I can think of. He calls himself the last governor of Gaza, meaning that before that he was there with the military when Israel pulled out. I think it was in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. He was there coordinating everything in terms of the military rule of Gaza, the Israeli military rule. And at the time when I was at Bloomberg and I was doing the story and he was helping us, he would tell the craziest stories that if you heard would literally make the hair from your arms just rise up. He would tell me, for example, that he would go in a West Bank town, and there was no police really. Like he said that he was riding around in a car. I think I might have the details of the story wrong, but the gist is correct. And in the middle of a roundabout in traffic, a guy would step out and sort of flex, right? Say with a gun. I don't remember exactly, but I think it was with a gun. And he said something like, "I am the sheriff of this town and nobody messes with me." Now this, I was raised in the United States. I live in Israel. These are more or less orderly societies. That doesn't happen. It's not the West Bank. It's the wild West Bank. Okay. And the same is true for what he knows about Gaza. Now, the reason I reached out to Grisha, because it had been a couple of years since we spoke. He posts on LinkedIn quite a lot, and it's very interesting stuff. I recommend that you follow him because he does provide really good analysis about what's going on in the region. And he wrote this post where he said that Yahya Sinwar, that his brother, I think his name is Mohammed, that he has now, ever since Yahya was killed by the Israelis, that he has become the head of Hamas de facto, or perhaps even one of the top guys. And that also that he just threw this in there as a detail that he's a pedophile. Now, apart from that being interesting gossip, and I suppose as someone who really doesn't like Hamas and what they stand for, nice notch to have under the belt to throw at them and say, not only are you guys crazy, but you're also child fuckers. But it's super important to have these kinds of details, to understand them, because why? They tell you about the psychological state of these people. And this is key. This is everything, okay? Now let me give you a different story just to really hammer home the point here, right? There's this guy, Mossab, I can't remember the guy's name. He's the son of Hamas. You see him a lot on these interviews. He's this Palestinian guy. You see him on Piers Morgan and so on and so forth. I think he was also on Jordan Peterson's podcast. That his father was one of the founding members of Hamas, or a senior member of Hamas. And he got arrested by the Israelis, and then he turned to work for the Israeli intelligence services, and then he basically he saved a whole bunch of lives by preventing suicide bombings, alerting the Israelis to this, and so on and so forth. And the interviews he gives now, especially after October 7th, they're animated by rage. That guy is pissed off. And why? Because he knows, he lived it. He knows who these people are. He knows who these people are, like psychologically. He knows, he's seen them up front, and he gets really pissed off when journalists and academics and activists and so on and so forth try to tell him otherwise. They try to gaslight what he has seen personally, that these people are nuts. Okay? Remind you, okay, the kinds of people who rob from poor people and then sacrifice them to pointless wars, some of them fuck children, apparently. These are not people that you would invite to your house for dinner, let's say. Okay? Something is really, really wrong up there. And he knows this. And I've never met the guy, but he must be so angry at the chasm that exists between the myth that some academics or journalists or writers or whatever, the way that they present these psychopaths versus the reality. He must be so annoyed that this chasm exists, that he's just so angry because he understands also that if you believe in the myth, it has serious consequences. Look at where we are right now. You have actually people who defend these nut jobs, these crazy people who are just making things worse for everyone. It's not just that these people are crazy. It's that they make the lives of millions of people also terrible. Look at Gaza right now. It's just completely destroyed. And I think it was something like 40,000 people have been killed. 2 million people that live there. Every single person that lives in Gaza knows someone that's been screwed by this whole catastrophe. So there are serious consequences for believing something about a group of people, say in positions of power, that isn't true. The truth shall set us free, right? And so I think it's very, very important to listen to stories that folks like Grisha have in their minds. And you don't see this stuff in any media, any academic work. Again, I was in the media, I was at Bloomberg, and I had no clue about any of this stuff until I met him. And I'll give you another example that he didn't tell me the story, but he sort of threw this at me and then just kind of walked away. He said he knows the real father of Yasser Arafat's daughter. Imagine, okay, that you are the most powerful man, the most powerful Palestinian man, and someone's fucking your wife. That is crazy, okay? Imagine the wife. Why is she looking for sex from someone else? What's going on with the husband, right? What does that do to the husband's psychology? He's not getting respect from the wife at home. How is he, you can't just separate these two things. A man or a woman or anyone takes all the baggage, all the emotional stuff that's going on in the house or wherever it is and brings it out to the world, and vice versa. These things are super important. It's not just generic gossip or gossip for gossip's sake. Okay, Yahya Sinwar's brother is now in a position of authority, and the guy fucks kids on the side. Something is going on there that we need to understand. Are these people that you can deal with? Can you take these people seriously? Can you cut a deal with them? Can you trust these people to have a ceasefire? Obviously, the answer is no, but some people actually do believe that the answer is yes. And these are the people that think, enough of this stuff, I don't want to hear about this stuff anymore, and therefore, let's just cut a deal and whatever. We'll just deal with it and kick the can down the road. By the way, this happens to be the position of pretty much every politician in the world. I'm just expressing to you how important it is to understand who these people are, okay? And so that's why I wanted to talk to Grisha, because my God, the stories he knows will blow your mind. It's certainly going to blow my mind, right? So, mission accomplished. However, I will say that I didn't do as good a job as I wished. The conversation was fun; it was nice, but I screwed up. I didn't prime him enough. I don't know. So I want your help. And I would love for you to write in the comments that you want to have Grisha back on again and that he tells you the stories. Because, like I said, this is super, super important. And he knows so much about what goes on in these areas that, you're not going to find folks like him. And I think that's pretty much it. So I think this is my attempt to welcome you to my house, to get comfortable. This is obviously one of the first times that you're going to come to my house, so to speak. But there's going to be many more, and it's going to get better. And I want this to be well worth your time. And I want this to be well worth everyone's time, because, like I said, the truth shall set us free, and I intend to get there. All right, guys.
Everything is stuck.
Everything is stuck, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So let me ask you, do you think that the killing of Nasrallah and Sinwar and all that, do you think that helps things? I don't know. Tell me what you think long term?
Like everything in the world, there are two sides to the coin.
Yeah.
So on one hand, it's like a hydra. Okay, you cut the head, and then two heads grow. And sometimes it's better to keep the head that you know, instead of facing a future two heads that you don't know. How will they act or think? I think that a good example to that is the outcomes of the second Gulf War. The United States eliminated the biggest threat of those times, Saddam Hussein, and they created a monster named Iran, because the only one who actually kept Iran inside Iran with their aspirations, with their desires, with their dreams, but inside Iran was only the biggest enemy of humanity those years, Saddam Hussein.
Wow. It's wild to think about it, right? Like you have basically Satan's all over the world, and they're all
it's maybe
fighting one another
wild,
too.
but I think that the Western world, like Israel, the Western coalition, are missing the old regimes in the Middle East. at least we all knew who is the enemy, who is the friend, whose interest is what. So if you look at it, in a perspective of 20 years, yes, we all miss. You know what? We even miss the USSR.
Go on.
In a way, think about it. There was a world order. You knew who is the enemy, who is the friend, who is against who has what abilities. Being progressive, acting in a progressive approach, that's amazing. That's good. That's it inspires you as a Western human being with the Western philosophy. But
Mhm.
if you look at it globally, well, I'm not sure that we did the best. I'm not sure that this is the best solution.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, and certainly if I'm being pragmatic, I would agree with you. But in that pragmatism, there's still a major problem, and I think it's the same problem that everyone is grappling with, is that the incentives are such that these maniacs in Gaza, in Iran, in Iraq, in the USSR, they're all such that the psychopaths take power, and then they take all the money, and the so-called good guys, right, the ones who understand that the path towards freedom is the path towards peace is freedom and dignity for everyone, as much as you can, of course. They don't actually do what they can to take those guys out. But as you said, right, if you take them out, you take out the top guys, and then who knows what comes and takes its place, because the fundamentals of those societies are so screwed up that there's a reason why the psychopaths in Iran and in Gaza, and we'll get to that in a second, but there's a reason why those guys take over, because those societies are based on envy and victimhood and all this kind of stuff. So if you're a Palestinian and you've been fed your entire life that the Jews stole my land, and I've been put on this earth to destroy another country of a bunch of strangers that I've never met, and that's my only path to ambition and glory, because everything else is shut off to me, right? If I live in Gaza, I'm sealed off from the world, and I can't become a football player.
This is why I have to interfere. This is why there is a contradiction in what you've just said.
Okay.
Because to those people, they are not psychopaths.
They are not what?
They are not psychopaths.
Mm.
It's the leadership. This is how it should be. This is how it should move on. And that's why this is the only contradiction in what you've said. They are not psychopaths to those people who want them to rule, who want them to control, who want them to be there. Because they, same psychopaths, as we say, are the ones who educate them to continue believing in the fact that they are not psychopaths, that they are
right.
that they are the truth, and this is how it should be. So and this is the problem. We are trying to change something, to do something where we are not touching the base, and the base is the culture, the education.
Yes. Yes.
If you take a kid from I don't know, Nicaragua, and you put him in China, so he will be Chinese. But if you take a Chinese kid and he will grow, I don't know, in London, so he will become British.
But
So it all
but
so actually the same psychopaths are the ones who are feeding their own philosophy, theology by the same people that they rule, and this is how the wheels of what we say, psychopaths, and what they say, the only truth on earth, it will continue unless we will find a way how to stop it.
so what's interesting about that, first of all, I think there's a lot of truth to what you said, but still, if you go one level deeper and you look into historical examples, like take, for example, the Arab Spring, where, who was it? Gaddafi was killed, Mubarak. I mean, they were,
The Arab Spring is a lie.
okay.
Because the Arab Spring started in Tunisia, okay?
Hmm.
The first guy that burned himself, and it came out of a call, a cry of I want to have my rights.
Yeah.
But then from Tunisia, when it started to spread in the Middle East, let me take you to Egypt, for example. So
Hmm.
the Muslim Brotherhood automatically adjusted themselves by using the Arab Spring to lead their own philosophy, theology, and inspirations. So even when we say the Arab Spring and it's like sounds good to our ears, the Arab Spring that was supposed to, that there is hope to, I don't know, progressivity, democracy, people. Let's not forget that the people in the Middle East who are behind the I would say, I don't know how to say, the imuts, the adoption
Hmm.
of this term, they immediately adopt it and they evolve it. That's something that will serve their own interest. So
Absolutely. But
what
the
started in
point,
Tunisia as something very, very progressive ended in a coup, in an aggressive coup that was actually led by Hamas in Egypt,
so
in Gaza.
uh, I agree. I agree. The point I was trying to make is that in places like Egypt and Syria and Tunisia and Libya, you did have people who were fed up with this bullshit that they, the one true leader, and this person is irreplaceable, and if it's not for this man who steals all the wealth or the majority of the wealth and keeps the vast majority of the people dumb and poor, and they feed them this narrative of the West has your lives are terrible because not because of me, right? Not because I'm the one in charge and who sets things, who makes the rules here and is, stealing from you guys and making your life. No, don't look at me. Look at the West. Look at the Jews. Look at all these people who are doing so much better than you, and let's never examine what goes right in those societies because it's clearly that they're just stealing money and they're colonialists and blah 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 blah. All this nonsense, right? Which is they strip the individual of their own personal responsibility to improve themselves, right? Because it is from the individual, and then that then becomes a collective, because the collective is just a bunch of individuals, right? And so, if every person is doing their best, you wouldn't have any of this stuff. In fact, those people wouldn't be putting up with these kinds of, as I like to call them, psychopaths.
I disagree.
Go on.
Just look what is happening at universities in the States and Europe. Smart kids, Muslims, live in democracies. I published a video 2 days ago of a nice, beautiful, beautiful Canadian girl with amazing eyes. I can send it to you if you want. And
Please.
she says that she drove through a demonstration and she had to drive through, and she was shocked because the ones who demonstrated there for Palestine, for, I don't know, Gazans, for the elimination of the state of Israel, also shouted, "Death to Canada, death to Canada, death." And she said, "Death to my country? So why the hell you all live here? Why the hell you enjoy from?" So it's like, what the hell are you doing here? Get
Yeah.
back to your countries. Now, this is not the end of the story. I will show you all the responses that I got, okay, it's like anyone who is defined as pro-Palestinian, the language at his response is violence.
Mm.
Okay,
Say wait.
all the people there are the people who sent me likes. Okay, wow,
Mm.
amazing, an amazing video, and there are the progressive pro-Palestinians.
Yeah.
They are Muslims, all of them. The language that they use responding to my share, okay, to this video, is violence.
Right.
So, is it something that is part of the culture? Is it something that is part of the religion? Is it something, and it doesn't matter where will those people grow? You know, when I came to Israel at the age of almost 6, you know, when people ask me, how do you define yourself? My definition is I'm Israeli. I'm not Russian. I'm not Ukrainian. I'm not from the USSR. I'm Israeli. Because when
Mm.
we came to Israel at 73, our goal was to be part of this country, to be part of this nation, to adopt the culture and to adjust.
Yeah.
And this is why I speak Hebrew, I think in Hebrew, I dream in Hebrew. Okay, and my kids speak only Hebrew. They're not. I think I did the mistake that we didn't speak with the Russian because it's only for general knowledge. But for me, as a Jew, I'm Israeli. I'm not a
Mm.
USSR Jew. Okay, I'm not a Ukrainian Jew. No, I'm Israeli. Okay,
Mm.
and this is what countries should demand from their citizens. If you want to live in Canada, if you want to live in the United States, you must become one of us. And I think that our Western democracy is the tool that they're using against us. And I believe that in the podcast we will talk about it, how they
Yeah.
do it and how they did it amazingly in Gaza.
So again, I find myself agreeing with you, and then I just want to go one level deeper to get to where I'm coming from. So I recognize everything you say is absolutely true, I insist on going one level deeper just to understand how to solve all these issues. Now, I think you have the point of view, and correct me if I'm wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but that these things are insoluble, that you cannot resolve all these very, very complicated issues. And I would say maybe not. But one way to come back to what I'm trying to say is, there's this psychologist that I very much like. His name is Carl Jung. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. And he said in an interview, and this must have been in the late 50s, he said that the biggest danger to the world is man himself. And I thought, what's he talking about? You have nuclear weapons, you've got climate change, you've got all these things. I'm talking about now, like in this perspective, but it's absolutely true what he's saying, because the ones who destroy the environment or push the button to trigger a nuclear war are people, are men,
Until the AI
predominantly.
technology will be developed.
Yeah, but even that, right? The ones who develop the AI are us.
It's only the
And
beginning.
yes. But this idea that we better figure out what motivates us and what drives us, and what environments and what mode of thinking brings out the best of us and brings out the worst of us. I think that's absolutely true, and it's true on the individual level, and so therefore it's obviously true on the collective. And we
Yeah.
have more than enough data and evidence to suggest that the Western, I mean, it's strange to call it Western because, when you think about free markets and free speech, these things work all around the world. Like if you look at the data now, we're almost out of extreme poverty around the world, and that's has dovetailed pretty much exactly with the end of the Soviet Empire
We
and
are,
the
we are,
fall.
excuse me, we are what? We are,
There's almost no more extreme poverty in the world. So this
so
is, I think,
how do you explain 17 million? hungry people in Sudan.
I'm saying almost no. Yeah, we're talking about
70
absolute
million
terms.
is 70 million
It's
is
a
a lot.
lot. It's a lot. I said almost, right? We're talking about 80 billion. What 70 million out of 80 billion is sorry, 8 billion is not. It's not a huge percentage, right? And you could look this up. I think it's called the World in Data or something like that. There's some website that tracks this stuff. And by the way, extreme poverty is something like I think it's $1.90 a day. So it's not exactly the minimum wage in US, but still, it's
Yes,
something. It's progress.
but you can find it in North Korea. You can find it in India. You can find it
Yeah, but
in
I would also
Pakistan.
argue that those are the places that don't have free speech or free markets or any of
Yeah,
the other freedoms that we all enjoy.
yeah,
But if you do implement those policies,
I
like
agree.
magic, things start to happen and things start to move in a positive direction. And it's also so striking to me that in these societies like Iran and in the Palestinian territories and in Syria and in Egypt, the ones who are in power have most of the money and are the most incompetent on the world stage in terms of leading their countries. So like the corruption is almost negatively correlated in these failed states versus what's going on in Israel or the US, where
We
corruption is a
also
problem, but it's not as
we
bad.
also suffer from corruption,
Of
unfortunately.
course, of course, every country does, but I'm just saying the
Every country.
scale is not to be compared, and that speaks to the power of freedom, right? To let people choose themselves what path they want to take in life. Now, in Gaza, for example, I get very annoyed when people say things about October 7th, where they say stuff like, they're animals or they're savages and things like this, are terrorists. And those people don't try to put themselves in the shoes of those terrorists. Now, again, I'm not pro the massacres of October 7th. That's ridiculous. But I can understand what could drive a person that crazy and that murderous if your entire life you've just been told you can't be what you dream of being, and you're just so and you're told that it's the fault of the Jews, and so you devise all these sort of revenge fantasies in your mind. I mean, essentially, the Palestinian story is a revenge fantasy. If you think about it, right? They took our land, and we have to get it back.
Yeah, but it's based on a lie.
Sure, of course it is.
It's based on a lie, and it's based also on deception of the West.
What do you mean?
And I think that we are all, even Israel, okay, we've been decepted by Hamas.
Mm.
It's
What do you mean? In what sense?
uh, you know, they are using terms that the Western ear loves. It's like the sound. It's like it sounds like music. Okay.
Hmm.
For example, can you explain the conflict between? There's a conflict, okay, built-in conflict between Hamas and elections. It's something that doesn't work, and yet Hamas, as a terror organization, always use Western terms, Western. It's not philosophy, but tools. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so the West, the progressive West, will look at them and empathize,
Yeah.
empathy. Okay, so when you say Hamas, for me, you cannot add to that elections. Okay, it doesn't work, and yet, the West, the progressive West, talks about a future possibility of a two-state solution with ending the conflict between Hamas and Fatah. So in
Yeah.
future they will be able to reach to elections.
Yeah.
Now there is one major thing that they must do before they even use this tool named elections. They need to change the manifest and to say we drop our weapons and we believe not in muqawama, we believe in peace. The moment you do that, okay, the moment you start doing that process, that they are changing the ways. They are not choosing the path of muqawama. For the Western ear, it will be resistance. For my ear, it will be terror. Okay,
Yeah.
it's like we throw it away. We don't want to be there. We don't want to use that road, and we are choosing a different road. A road that says yes to peace, yes to humanity, yes to accepting the others. And only then you can use tools that the West invented, and we are always falling into that trap that they use tools that the West invented, so the West will empathize. Empathize, that's how we say it? Empathize them. Let's start.
Well, no, I mean, look, I think
I have limited time, so let's start.
okay, I think that a good way to because what's missing in all this stuff is personal color. I mean, if you actually flesh out who the Hamas leaders are, you would realize very quickly that these are people you would not want to invite to your dinner party. Or if you did, you would sit them at the other end of the table and pray to God that they would not, come and try to start a conversation with you. These are terrible, terrible people. And then I saw what you posted on LinkedIn, that the brother of Yahya Sinwar, I think it was, he's a pedophile, and you said this is a well-known thing in Gaza. And when we spoke on the phone, you said, is this even new? And I'm like, yeah, of course. I represent the average person here, and I guarantee you that you will not find that anywhere at all in anywhere online in the sort of English speaking, or even anything outside of the Arab world. I mean, maybe even then you wouldn't see it. And so I think it's important to know who these characters are, and like how all this, how do they exactly run these organizations? And I mean, how do you know that these guys are pedophiles?
Jacob,
This guy?
do you know what is our problem? That we
Yeah.
speak to each other as Westerns, okay? You know me, I know you. The difference between me and you, okay, or you and your friends, is that I have the same conversations with Palestinians.
Okay.
So only this morning, okay, I had a nice, long phone discussion
Mm-hmm.
with a former, I cannot say friend, but a colleague of mine, that he was posted in Gaza, okay, as a Palestinian Authority official. He worked at one of the intelligent organizations in Gaza. And to prepare myself to this podcast with you, I asked him a few questions, tricky questions. And I asked him about how it will look like, what will happen. He told me a lot, because he was one of the people who investigated some of those Hamas leaders that you just mentioned
Mm-hmm.
in Palestinian prisons. Okay, so he knows them well, and he shared some of the, I would say, the juicy information from those investigations. And one of and it took us 5 times, okay, 5 rounds of me asking and him explaining, and then I told him the name. Okay, you didn't answer my question. We all know, you and me and your friend and my friends, that Muhammad Sinwar is a pedophile. He said, okay, what do you want to know? Yes, he's a pedophile. We all know that. And my question was, how can Azadin al-Qassam, fighters, terrorists, okay, for me, holding the flag of Islam, accept somebody, okay, that we all know and they all know that he did what he did to children? He said, Grisha, don't worry. They all know that. We know that. All we need is that they will be weak enough so the people of Gaza will cut him to pieces.
Wow.
Okay? And I just quoted him. This is exactly what he told me. And he told me, your Western friends are so dumb because when we talk about unity, okay, unification, it's not between
Mm.
us and Hamas. It's between us, Fatah, and us, Fatah.
I don't understand.
I know, I know. I understand that, but he just said it because I knew that a long time ago. The problem, the problem now is not about unity between Hamas and Fatah, or unity between the Fatah, Hamas, and PIJ fractions. It's about Abu Mazen people and Dahlan's people and Barghouti's people. They
Okay.
understand. They understand that they need to, and this is also the demand coming from the Emirates. Okay, first of all, we want to see unity in Fatah.
Okay.
They do not accept Hamas. It's all lies because the first thing that will happen the moment Fatah will get, or I would say Fatah will be in power again. Okay, it's called in Hebrew, and you know that nikmat dam.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it in English.
Like, yeah, being out for revenge, essentially.
And he told me the following: until we, all of us, will not reach to let me say it politically correct. Okay, he said the following:
No, fuck that, man.
Grisha, you understand that first of all, we will need to get and to feel satisfied here that we will slaughter, kill the ones who killed our sons, our brothers, our sisters in Gaza during the coup in June 2007.
Oh
And
my God.
only after that, after the blood revenge, okay, we will be able to move forward.
Oh my God.
Now, in Quran, if you ask any Bedouin, and he will tell you, if you will once join to my tours, you will hear that, or my lectures. In Islam, okay, I studied it in the university. If you implement your blood revenge before 40 years passed, it's wrong. You need to wait 40 years, and only then to do that.
Why?
Yes,
Why do they need to wait 40 years?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's what is mentioned in religion, in Muslim religion. If you want to do a mitzvah, okay, a real mitzvah, a real revenge, you need to wait 40 years.
Okay.
This is why we Jews always say that even if a Arab, 40 years in the grave, don't believe him.
Hmm.
There is
So,
a reason for everything, but I hope it's not recorded.
wait, so
Okay, let's start with the podcast.
let's go back for a second here. I mean,
Are we
is
are we
the
are we are we already in the podcast or no?
yeah,
Okay, so it's
a long
all
time ago.
so it's all recorded. Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So is the because I got the sense that from our back and forth that Hamas is essentially just a criminal organization with a political mask.
Yes and no.
Um,
Yes and no.
so tell me, I mean, what explains the rise of Yahya Sinwar and his brothers? Because you made that sound like they're just a gang, like a crime gang, him and his brothers. Is that true?
Yes and no. Again, okay. We all know that the Palestinian Authority is corrupted. Okay,
Yeah.
I would say no news. Okay, everybody knows
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
And for me, being the last 7 years in the private sector, I can tell you for sure, yes, it is. This is how it is. Uh, Now, Hamas are
What does
also
that mean?
corrupt. It means that there is corruption.
Okay.
Uh, when it comes to Hamas, now it's also no news that Khalid Mash'al and Hania they have a fortune of $4-5 billion each. Now, what is that? Is that I don't know? They are some smart I don't know, guys who did amazing deals at the stock market or somewhere and made the billions. I don't know, they created a huge, amazing deal. No, it's corruption. Okay.
While they're running the political / terrorist organization, there are
Of
also
course.
brilliant Wall Street traders on the side. Yes, go on.
Yeah. Okay. So now when you look on at Hezbollah, okay, when you look at
Yeah.
Hezbollah, okay, they are Shias. They believe in Shia. They have their goals, their vision, whatever. But they make money out of drugs. Now everybody knows that. This
Hmm.
is not a secret in the Middle East. Drugs that they grow that go through Syria, from Syria to Jordan, and from there to the Middle East, Saudi Arabia. And one of the demands of the countries in the Middle East that this income or this branch of Assad's brother, okay, he is the commander of the 4th division in Syria, and he is actually the biggest dealer of drugs in the Middle East also, with Hezbollah making millions on millions as income from drugs, from drugging their own Muslim brothers in the Middle East, so they will be able to fight the enemy, Israel.
Yeah.
Simple, right?
Yeah.
So if it's so simple with Hezbollah, why is it not so simple with Hamas? Now, Hania, there is a story, a famous story, that when Yahya Sinwar was released by the Gilad Shalit deal, one of the 1,025 terrorists, and this is what made him a hero, by the way. The fact that
Mm.
he was a prisoner at the Israeli prison, and he was a very, I would say, successful prisoner that knew how to buy the heart of the prisoners and to lead them in prison. And by the way, I have to say that he is a Hamas terrorist without Israeli Jewish blood on his hands, only with Palestinian blood on his hands. Okay?
Sinwar.
Sinwar, when he sat in Israeli prison, he was a Palestinian terrorist that killed Palestinians in Gaza.
I don't follow. How do you kill people in Gaza if you're in prison?
No, when he was not in prison, when he
Ah,
was a young Hamas supporter, his glory, okay, his power, he created himself. He built himself as a hero by Hamas leadership, Ahmad Yassin and others, by killing his own people that were
mm.
suspected as collaborators.
Is it
This
true
is,
that he killed the first person with his bare hands? He
I don't
took
know,
that person.
I don't know, I
Okay.
don't know that. I do know that from 11 people that he killed, only 3 were actually real collaborators.
Wow.
Okay, the rest
Wow.
are people that it's well known. By the way, there was also a show in Israeli TV on that.
But it's worth lingering on that point for a second because to kill people without proof, evidence, trial, any of that stuff, to take that on board as I'm the guy who's going to carry out divine justice, essentially, right? Is killing someone.
Mhm.
That's quite an arrogant thing to do. Like, who the hell is this guy to do that,
I'm not
right? And then
surprised.
and then
Why? Why?
and then
Why
but then
you're?
that grows,
But why you are so surprised from that, Kobe? When I was a young
I'm
officer
not
in Gaza,
surprised.
when I was young, when people ask me about October 7th, so I said I'm not surprised from what they did. Okay, that they raped, butchered, killed, I don't know, chop organs. I'm not surprised. Okay, I'm not surprised because I've seen those things as a young officer inside Gaza when I served inside Gaza. From
Mm,
what they did to each other, okay. So
mm.
the people that maybe Sinwar killed or people like him killed Palestinians. I found people hanged, burned. They tortured people by burning a plastic pipe, and the plastic, fell burning on their legs or belly or eyes.
Jesus.
Um, so I was not surprised from the cruelty. Okay, I was surprised from the scale.
Mm.
It's 3,000 Nukhba terrorists that maybe you can understand, being incited and being educated to kill the enemy. Although I disagree with that, okay, because it means that they educate their own people to be unhuman.
Yeah.
Because even an animal kills faster.
Mm.
Okay, even an animal kills faster. So when you say to the people who did what they did October 7th, animals, you flatter them. It's exactly
Hmm.
when people started to name Hamas as ISIS. I said, come on, guys, this is you flatter Hamas when you tell them ISIS. And I
Hmm.
haven't and I can explain that, by the way, but we will get to that in a minute if you want. So I was not surprised I was surprised at the scale, because after the 3,000 Nukhba terrorists, another 5,000 residents of the Gaza Strip entered to Israel and did that.
Hmm.
So maybe I can understand when terrorists, okay, for me, that are incited, that were all on drugs because the drugs were found in their pockets, doing that. But how can you explain the another 5,000 who entered after them? And it's not only young people; it's also crippled people that entered and did that. And we've seen those
Hmm.
videos, those pictures. It's not an AI technology that created those images.
Yeah.
So the scale of cruelty of the horror so many people did those things to so many people. This is something more than just I can understand that. And
But
I have no
why?
explanation to that, by the way. I have no explanation. Okay, I know, I know because I've been in Gaza for years. I know the people. I know that they can reach to those levels of cruelty. I know that, but I never, ever, ever expected that so many people will be able to do that. I knew that there are some people like Sinwar that are so cruel. Other people, that can do 100 people, 1,000 people in the Gaza Strip that can
Yeah.
reach to that level of cruelty. But such big numbers, it's something that I never ever assumed. And there was a week before the war, I was about to close a deal with some Gazans. As I referred and I said in the past, I have friends. I told it to you, okay? I said it to you when you toured with me around the Gaza envelope. I told you I have friends in Gaza and I
Hmm.
have clients in Gaza. I can tell you now, I have no friends in Gaza, no more. I have
Why?
friends in. Something happened to me. I don't know. Okay, don't write it as something against me. I hope it's only temporary. I hope so. Okay,
Hmm.
because I appreciated the people of Gaza. I've been in Gaza. I was the last mayor of the city Gaza, as the municipality, as you know. I'm the only IDF officer that was honored by a family. There was a kid named after me in Gaza,
Hmm.
and I really believed in a process that we will have to go through together: Israeli society, Gazan society, Palestinian society. And it will take us few years, I don't know, maybe a generation, 25 years, but we will be able to reach to a peace process. And this is why I think I told you that in the past, that I consider myself as somebody that builds bridges for a better future. I don't know, maybe peace will find the way to drive on those bridges, but at least. And now I can tell you that I don't know, something happened to me after what I've seen October 7th, October 8th. Something happened to me after hearing all the horrors that happened to people there, people who witnessed that, people who I spoke to, all the tours that I lead there. And I think it will take us 2 to 3 generations to find solutions between our society and their society. By the way,
So,
the same process they will have to cross also. Now, just imagine what the people in Gaza have to go through. All this suffer.
oh, sure, sure.
So it's on both sides.
It's an ongoing catastrophe, right?
It's a
And
catastrophe. Yes.
the tragedy is that the Palestinians never, ever, ever get to the point where they examine themselves and their choices that they've made and think, you know, this is really going in the wrong direction every single year, and maybe we're the biggest part of the problem here. Like maybe that moment of self-reflection and introspection, and say, you know, the choices that we've made, the stories that we've told ourselves, maybe that's really not been helpful. In fact, it's been counterproductive. But that moment never really seems to arrive. Like I don't see the writer or the leader or the business person who says, guys, everything that we've done up until now has been it's been a disaster, a catastrophe, and we have got to stop blaming other people for our problems. I mean, we make ourselves completely powerless when we do that. Now, you know, I'm interested in you and your sort of the shock of October 7th saying to you, okay, you know, I need to take a pause from my relations with Gazans.
I'm still in touch with them. No, I have to be honest.
Okay.
Something happened to my heart, to my feelings. But when it
Yeah.
comes to pragmatism, yes, I'm talking to people that are now located in the northern part of Gaza. This is why I know what is happening there on the ground. I'm in touch with people who live now in the humanitarian zone in the Mawasi, the Raballah, Serat, Brej. I'm in touch with Gazans that could afford paying $5,000 per head to Hamas and to Egyptians, so they are now located in Cairo. And I'm still in touch with Gazans who live in the West Bank. So I would say there are 4 types of Gazans that I'm in touch with
Okay.
on a daily basis. Gazans who live in the northern part of Gaza, in a different situation than the Gazans who live in the center of the Gaza Strip, in the Humanitarian area, the Gazans who are in Egypt, and the Gazans who are in the West Bank.
What's the difference between the Gazas in central Gaza and northern Gaza? What's happening
Gazans
there?
in the central part of Gaza are they live in better conditions, okay, and they make I would say less money. The ones who trade with the goods, and they are more careful because Hamas still controls them.
How is that possible?
The Gazans, it's possible. It's possible. That's why.
How?
That's why.
If the
That's why.
Israeli
That's why
army is there.
no, the Israeli army is not there. We are talking about the humanitarian area of the Mawasi in Khan Yunis and the Raballah. The IDF is not there.
So Hamas is now in control of those areas?
Hamas is also in control of the northern part of the Gaza Strip.
Wow.
Although there is an operation there, yes, there are 2 types of Hamas in the Gaza Strip, okay? The military wing and the civilian wing. And the civilian wing is still strong enough as long as the military wing continues fighting the IDF.
How does that work? Explain that.
In every video that will come out from Gaza, if you will, and I will be able to show it to you if you want, there is somebody there with a stick. Somebody there with a certain, symbol on his hand, on his head, that when people look at him, they recognize this is Hamas. Okay?
Okay.
And who is creating order when they stand in line to get food? Hamas. Who gives them the food? Hamas. This is one of the dilemmas in Israel now. How will the future in Gaza look like? Should the IDF deliver the food? Or should we allow the Palestinian Authority from the West Bank to enter to the Gaza Strip and maybe to take control or take over, but nobody will accept something like that, because this current government will not, politically, will not be able to accept the Palestinian Authority who pay for terrorists in the West Bank to enter to Gaza. So who will do that? The international community? Yes, there is a company in Gaza led by an international company, and unfortunately they can do nothing. So there are some thoughts in Israel that maybe a private company with armed people. It's how do you say it in English?
Mercenaries.
Mercenaries. Okay. It was just published in Israel. A guy named Moti Kihana that won some sort of contract, and maybe mercenaries will enter and escort the food, so Hamas will not be able to confiscate that.
Holy shit.
If you ask me, the people who are behind these thoughts or behind this, I don't know, tender, excuse me, I know some of them are my friends, but they understand nothing about the Gaza Strip. Because it will never work in Gaza. Never,
Why not?
ever. Because those
Why
are
not?
the Gazans. Because it's the Gazans. It will never work.
They
will prefer.
like having
They will.
Hamas
They
beat them
will
with
prefer. They no. But what they need to see, if you want to win the war, you are obligated to show the people of Gaza that you succeeded to eliminate Hamas. So as long as
sticks.
you see people standing in line and somebody is leading order, it means Hamas is still in control. The moment you see people not in line and you will see chaos, it means this is the time to release everything and to let the people eat Hamas, and they will bite them, they will eat them, they will cut them to pieces. But you need, this is the Gazans, okay? This is the Gazans. I know the Gazans well. And the only way to win this war is to send the people clear messages that you mean what you say. The moment it will be the IDF, the moment it will be mercenaries, nobody will stand against Hamas. But if it will be some Palestinian power, okay, a Palestinian power, I'm not saying who, I'm just saying a Palestinian power,
Yeah.
and you will coordinate their entrance to Gaza, and they will start fighting Hamas, and the people will see that Hamas are losing. This is when this domino effect will start working, and you will see Hamas falling one after the other.
Yeah. But that makes sense. I think if I just look at any uprising against any kind of tyranny, it's usually one person has to stand up, and then another, and
It's
then all
not
of a sudden
one.
you have this
No,
huge
no, no. It's
problem.
not one. We are talking about thousands of people. You know how many terrorists? How many terrorists the IDF killed? 17,000, 20,000. Okay, but we need to understand that the number of armed terrorists in Gaza, October 6th, was 70,000 almost.
70.
770, yes. So yes, we succeeded maybe to eliminate the structure of the battalions, of the brigades, of the platoons, of I don't know. But I remember myself as a young officer in Gaza, and we were chasing for, I don't know, 2 terrorists for a year. This is guerrilla. This is terrorism. And we are talking about thousands. So we will need to find a way how to fight against those thousands, so the people of Gaza will feel that they are strong enough to lead a move against them. But they need something to believe in. They need somebody to lead them. And the problem is that the government of Israel wants to avoid, and this is the catch, because the government of Israel wants to avoid from the Palestinian Authority politically, because Israel will have to pay prices in the West Bank, and nobody wants to pay them, especially with this current government. But
what does that mean, to pay a price?
Settlements, land, authorities, maybe Allenby, there are some payments that this Palestinian Authority will want you to pay. So they will be backed. So they will show the people that they achieved something. So when they do that in Gaza, there is a benefit out of that. They succeeded to achieve much more than what Hamas achieved.
Hmm. But the Palestinian Authority is sort of not exactly the greatest. They're marginally better than Hamas, right? They still censor everyone. Yeah, and they're super corrupt. What exactly is gained in this scenario if they come in and take over Gaza?
It's better than Israel taking back Gaza.
Mm.
It's better than, you know what? I don't want I don't want to go back to Gaza to be the mayor again. I don't want my son to do that.
Hmm.
I think it's about, and I will refer to what you just told me 20 minutes ago. It's about time they take responsibility on themselves. It's about time,
Yes.
and it's about
Yes.
time they mature. It's about time that they will start growing. It's about time that they will start building their own future, not in a, I would say, mukawama, it means resistance, but in a
Yeah.
way that will create a better future to their own children.
But okay, so this is the problem that I wish people understood a bit more, is that when you have folks who are incentivized to continue to be corrupt and suppressive of free thought or expression, what makes anyone think that they're going to all of a sudden change the way when they're given more power and more control over more people and more territory? This is the
It will take time. It will take years.
yeah.
And I think it's about time that also the Western society wake up. It's about time. It's about time that let's take for just for an example, okay? For one example, and I will use some numbers, datas, and let's talk about money in Gaza, okay? And I want to talk about money in Gaza until October 6th.
Okay.
People, the West, the UN, everybody looked at Gaza and said, okay, this is a third world and we need to send aid to Gaza. And actually, what the Western world and what Israel also did is empowered Hamas, a terror organization inside Gaza, using this approach that they are people who are in a bad situation and they need help. Do you know how many Palestinian workers worked in Israel until October 6th?
No.
17,500. Do you know what was the average salary in Gaza for a Palestinian worker inside Gaza until October 6th?
No idea.
35 shekels. It's less than $10.
$10.
$10, less than $10, okay?
Per day.
Per day, yes.
Okay.
If you were an expert in digging tunnels, so you will be paid 60 to 70 shekels. Okay, it depends. So I would say a good worker in Gaza digging tunnels for Hamas could get 70 shekels. It means
Okay.
$3, $2.50.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were lucky and you won the lottery, you got a permit to work in Israel from Sunday to Thursday, you were paid 450 shekels a day. Now, let's calculate it. 17,500 workers working in Israel from Sunday to Thursday, 5 days a week. Each one of them makes 450 shekels a day. 70,500, 5 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 12 months a year. Check me, okay? Calculate the numbers. $500 million of money that Palestinian workers worked in Israel and brought the money into Gaza.
Mm.
Now, with the money, what they did, they bought food, right? They bought clothes, they bought whatever. So if you increase the income to Gaza, flow of cash, it means you increase the wheels of the economy, the market. So you can
Mm-hmm.
import more, so people will buy more, so you will be able to collect more taxes also.
Yeah.
Who collects the taxes in Gaza? Hamas.
Hamas.
Who brings the money to Gaza? The workers. Who allow the workers to bring the money from? Israel, right? So Israel is actually in a position that they support the economy inside Gaza for Hamas, so Hamas would be able to tax more.
Right.
One. Two. 65% of the goods to Gaza were imported from Egypt to Gaza. There is a company until now in Egypt, it's called Abna Sina, the Sons of Sinai. Al-Arjani is a famous guy, you can Google him. He is the owner of this company, but his close partner is Assisi's son. And together with Hamas, they decided that 65% of the goods to Gaza will be imported from Egypt to Gaza through Rafah crossing or the Salahuddin crossing. There were two crossings on the Philadelphia border, making an income to Hamas of $700 million a year. Okay?
And I wonder where all that money went.
Number 3, Kerem Shalom, the crossing. Until October 6th, 1,000 trucks a day entered to Gaza. They brought goods to Gaza. Now, if you remember, I was a consultant to the biggest cement company in Israel, and I sold cement for almost 5 years to my clients in the West Bank. I had an office in the West Bank, and to my clients in Gaza. And I used to send something like 1,000 tons a day. Now, my clients in Gaza used to send me the receipts. So I've seen in the receipts that they have to pay 8 shekels per ton to Hamas inside Gaza. And it's only cement, okay? Only cement. What about flour, water, sugar, medicine, whatever? And we are talking about 1,000 trucks a day that actually inside Gaza, Hamas taxed. I don't know exactly what is the amount of money that they made on a daily basis, but it's millions a month. Let's continue. $30 million every month were given by Qatar to Gaza through Israel. You can ask me, how do I know that? I was responsible to make sure that the first $30 million will easily enter to Gaza. Okay? So the first shipment, the first bags, it was one of my missions in 2014, by the way. And then it was stopped for a year because of the demonstrations on the fence and renewed back again. So $30 million a month, 12 months a year, just calculate the money. And it's not the end of it. What about refugees in Gaza? What is the number of refugees in Gaza? It grows every year, 1.2 million. All under UNRWA's responsibility. Who pay their needs? UNRWA. And it grows every year. So Hamas have nothing to worry about because there is a UN organization that makes sure that the people that are under their sovereignty will get enough food, education, healthcare, blankets, sardines, and somebody will pay for their needs. Simple, right? It's not the end of it. What about WFP that send and feed 300,000 people a month in Gaza? What about WHO that makes sure that all the hospitals will get medicine and whatever? Then this is where the World Bank failed in their mission. Because when the World Bank published their reports, their yearly reports, they are obligated to explain what is the actual reality in Gaza. And the moment they say that there is a crisis in Gaza and people still live under a certain level of poverty, so it's needed that the international community will continue donating money to the Gaza Strip. So the Western world will continue donating money because everybody trusts on the World Bank's report. Simple, right? And everybody trusts on UNRWA's report. So if we were trying to support the reconciliation between Hamas and Fatah, and one of the conditions was that Mahmoud Abbas in Ramallah will accept Hamas officials that they appointed, so they will get salaries from the PA. Actually, it's money that we collect, the revenues, according to Oslo, and we send it to the West Bank. So Hamas wanted the PA to pay the salaries to the officials that they appointed in Gaza. So when Mahmoud Abbas refused, all those Hamas officials actually were pushed to find a job at UNRWA. So the international community will pay the salaries of all those people who are actually terrorists under Hamas.
It's insane.
So there is a guy, okay, that sits behind the table every December, and he makes a plan for a year. Okay, so who will pay our needs when it comes to economy, this country and that country and that country. Who will pay the needs that we need for, I don't know, drugs or medicines? It will be that country and that country. Actually, they have a plan, and they say, and they deliver or they divide the responsibilities between everybody, between the whole world, except Hamas. But they are the ones who led a coup in Gaza, and this is where people are, many Israelis also, that I see them on TV almost every day, and they are doing the same mistake again and again. Hamas were not elected in Gaza. Hamas won the elections in 2006, okay, in the Palestinian parliament, okay, and they led a coup a year after that in Gaza, and they took Gaza by force as an occupier. This is why it is so important for Hamas that there will be Gaza leadership made homemade, okay, Gaza homemade, and not somebody that came from outside. This is why it was historically so important that Haniya from Gaza, for the first time, won the elections. By the way, elections, Hamas elections, it doesn't work, but he won the election in a terror organization, and for the first time, Hamas leadership in Gaza and Hamas leadership outside were actually led by one guy that was from Gaza, Hani. And then it was naturally that Sinwar will replace him, okay? Because he is the leader, the one and the only, the hero, the only Palestinian, the only Arab leader that succeeded to defeat the state of Israel. Okay, historically, this is how he will be mentioned. I just want to mention one thing. We are also sometimes stupid, and we are doing stupid things because we all wanted to show how we killed this cruel bastard Hamas, Hamas leader Sinwar. Actually, we presented the video for the people of Gaza, for the Palestinians, for the Arab world, as the
hero.
The hero. Okay, this is
how
a hero should die. So sometimes we are also dumb, and we are doing mistakes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Wait, but that's the thing about that.
No. You need to understand. And we started with money. So when it comes to money, when it comes to sovereignty, we, the West, okay, we feed ourselves sometimes with bullshit, and with the same bullshit that the other side understand that this is what we are doing, they are using that against us.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Do you want to have an example? Let me give you an example. Do you remember at the beginning of the war, everybody spoke about fuel to Gaza. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
So I named it the Holy Fuel Triangle.
Okay.
Let's talk about it for a minute. Who supplied electricity to the Gaza Strip before the war?
Israel, no?
What is the percentage? You know?
No.
Can you guess? Just guess. It's not an exam. Just guess.
80%?
80%. You see? Will it surprise you if it will be only 38%?
Where does the rest come from?
A power plant that they have in Gaza. But nobody talks about the power plant. There is a power plant in Gaza. I know that because I helped them to build that in 96. And Hamas collected the money from the people who used the electricity in Gaza that we supplied from Israel. And with the money, they bought cheap diesel from Egypt and they sold it in a higher price in Gaza. So they made money from the gap between what they bought and what they sold. And they could buy more. They could operate a power plant. They could produce more electricity. And we have solar panels, and there is an industry that was developed in Gaza, generators. Okay? But for generators, you need fuel that comes from Egypt, not from Israel. And there is a reason to that. So, Water.
You're talking
Who
about the fuel,
No,
the
no,
fuel,
no,
the
no, no, no.
fuel.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm getting there, but I need to do this build up with you. Okay.
Okay.
Who supplies water to Gaza? Even now.
Don't know.
Okay. What do you think? What do you assume?
I'm guessing Israel.
Let's talk before the war. Who supplied the water before the war to Gaza?
I'm guessing Israel.
You are guessing it right. Amazing. That's an amazing guess. Can you
Okay.
just continue and guess how much with percentage? Just guess. Your hunch.
Let's go 80% again.
And can I ask you why do you think it's 80?
Well, from the little I know that the water sources in Gaza are contaminated and
So you're using logic.
okay.
Okay, logic. But will it surprise you if I will tell you that we supplied and we still supply only 12% of the consumption in Gaza?
It surprises me, yes.
Okay. And the next question that you should ask me, okay, if that's so, from where they get the money, the water
Right.
from the aquifer in Gaza. Now, the aquifer, if you Google it, you will find there was a report in 2012, the Gaza 2020 crisis. And it's written there that in 2020, 2.1 million people in Gaza are about to be left without a drop of water. It's not a secret. I dealt with it when I served at COGAT. I was a member at the I forgot the name. The community, the Palestinian Israeli water community. Okay, and
Okay.
we dealt with the Gaza crisis, and the solution was that in Gaza they should build a desalination plant, and the plant should produce 100 million cubic meters of water a year, 50 million to the use of the people, and 50 million that will be pushed into the aquifer. So the aquifer will recover. Okay, that's the plan.
Okay.
It's all over the report of the UN, of the PA, Israel, everybody. Somebody did something with that? No. Right? Now, I even flew to Brussels. I flew to Brussels to ask the international community to donate money to Gaza. So the EU will donate $500 million so they will be able to build a desalination plant so the people of Gaza will have water so they will not have to go through this water crisis. Now, one of the conditions was, if you want us to donate that, you need to make sure that you solve the energy problems to Gaza. Can we? Yes, of course can. Of course we can. But do you know how to build a rocket, Kobe?
A rocket? No,
Yes,
I can't
yes,
say that I do.
yes. You know. You can ask your doctor. Can you tell me his name? You know what? Don't tell me. I will tell you his name. His name is Dr. Google.
Okay.
So Dr. Google, if you ask him, he will tell you. Step outside, find a pole, put it out, cut it, open it, melt it, add the tail, an engine. It's simple. You just follow the orders. Just a minute.
Okay.
Do you think that you will need energy to do that?
Sure.
That comes from Israel. Okay. Just a minute. A question to you, Kobe. They can ask, or they could ask Google questions in Gaza. Who provides them the ability? Why not? Who provides them the ability to ask Google questions? You're saying why not as it's something that is obvious. Okay, somebody needs to provide them the connection to the satellite. Who provides it to them?
Israel?
And it's obvious that Israel should continue providing electricity to the same people who use that electricity to build rockets that eventually they will launch into our cities to kill our children. Is that obvious?
No.
Is it obvious that the same people will use the same internet connections to teach their own kids how to build rockets? A question, who pays for that?
You and I.
No, we pay nothing for that. The PA paid for that. The Palestinian Authority, from the revenues that we collect for them, according to Oslo, it's not that this is what we want to do, this is what we agreed that we would do. It reached to 600 to 700 million shekels a month, and before we delivered the money to the PA in Ramallah, we deducted from what we supplied to Gaza.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to add, we needed to ask the boss. And who is the boss? The owner of the money. So yes, we asked the PA. There is a crisis in Gaza. We need to solve the energy problems. Do you know what was the response of the
No,
Palestinian ministers in Ramallah
no.
that flew with me to Brussels? I'm going to scare you. They showed me a finger, but not this one.
Why? Why
Why?
did
They
they?
said
Yeah.
we should pay for the energy that our enemies are using from you. If you want to send them, send it to them. Take the money from them, not from us. So it's their own leadership.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I forgot. The progressive world will tell you, come on, it's adjust your expectations. They are not there yet. And then I'm going to take
Mm.
it back to you. It's about time that they evolve and take responsibility.
Yeah.
I think it's about time. And this is where the West makes the mistakes. It's about time that there will be conditions to everything. If you want to get money, you must do one, two, three, four. And you don't rely on them. You send your inspectors, boots on the ground, to make sure that the money are used for the goal that you donated. And this is the problem with UNRWA. Because when I worked with UNRWA in the past, and I was working closely with UNRWA, and UNRWA helped me a lot in 2014, it was before the coup in Gaza. So international staff were still in Gaza. They could inspect, they could check the lists, they could check the warehouses, they could check the books. But since the coup that Hamas led in Gaza, there was only one foreigner left in Gaza, the head of UNRWA. And the rest 13,000 were actually Palestinian, Gazan, local people. So what do you expect? You give a
Mm.
nice bowl of milk to the cat and you expect him not to drink from there?
Mm. It's many levels of insanity, isn't it?
I just need to complete the triangle, if you don't mind.
Oh God, there's more.
Uh, the majority of the water are from the aquifer. It means you need wells, right? So wells should operate the systems they will be able to pump the water. So if there's only 10 to 12 hours electricity a day in Gaza, the energy that comes from Israel, what about the rest of the day? They need generators. So yes, there's a nice Western country that donated generators to the Gaza, so they will install them near the wells, so they will be able to pump the water the moment there's no energy in Gaza. Now, to
Mm.
operate the generators, you need fuel that comes from Egypt, so Hamas will be able to buy it or it will be donated to them. Okay, that's one. Two, hospitals in Gaza. You know, we gained our legitimacy to fight Hamas in 4 rounds of escalation because of the fact that we continued supplying humanitarian aid and solution during the war. Now, Hamas studied us 4 times, and they knew exactly that the next war will be conducted, that Hamas will lead the attack, Hamas will lead the defend, Hamas will lead, I don't know, whatever is needed in Gaza to fight the enemy, and who will be responsible on Hamas logistics? The IDF, Israel. Because I remember myself during Protective Edge, 52 days of an operation, and I was responsible on sending 5,700 trucks of aid to Gaza through Kerem Shalom. And I was so proud of myself, and my commanders were so proud and flattered me, told me, Grisha, you did an amazing job because you dealt with all the legitimacy that Israel needed, so we will be able to continue fighting the enemy. But actually,
Mm.
what I did is I supplied the logistics needed for Hamas. So if you continue supplying diesel, and this is why fuel and diesel are so important, were so important. So we made sure that under fire we will supply the diesel to fuel the generators that are operating the wells that are supplying the water to the people. It's very logical. So
Hmm.
why not to create a map in Gaza so all the white Toyotas that entered to Israel and killed Israeli citizens and civilians and kidnapped soldiers and people into Gaza will actually use those generators or those wells as fuel stations, as gas stations? Knowing that in any future war scenario, Israel, people like me, will make sure that fuel will be entering to Gaza under fire, escorted by the UN, so people with Gaza will have water. That's actually, so Hamas will be able to continue using the white Toyotas against the IDF. And what about the hospitals? The same thing. They have energy only for 12, 14 hours. And what about the rest of the day? A different country donated generators to the hospitals. So the moment there's a lack of energy, the generators will automatically start working. So the patients in the hospital will have oxygen. If that's so, why not to build the headquarters underneath the hospital, knowing that the same IDF that you are fighting will make sure that you will have oxygen underground under that hospital.
So this is all exploiting a major weakness in the Western psyche these days, right?
And it's
Which
about
is this,
it's about time that we change it.
yeah, and it's the weakness is this affinity for victims, right? And that's also like it's an insane idea, because if you treat people like victims, and if you exalt the victim to, you know, the highest level of your society, I mean, what's the message that you're sending to people? That you're incapable of transcending your present situation, you cannot grow, none of it's your fault. Um, it's madness, right? It leads to essentially what's going on and with the Palestinians as one example, but there are many others.
One of the questions I want to ask you is why
Yeah.
only Palestinians? Do
What
you
do you
know how
mean?
many do you know how many people suffer from hunger in Sudan?
Yeah, but it's not the Palestinians, right? It's the Jews. It's not. I mean, the Palestinians are just
Why?
they're the mirror opposite of the
Just a
Jews.
minute. The kids in Sudan have no rights. They can die.
No, no, that's not what I'm
17,
saying.
17 million people in Sudan. Nobody cares about them. What about the 1 million? The 1 million civilians that Assad killed in Syria? Some of them are also Palestinians.
For sure. What I'm saying is that because it's a Jewish question. You know, nobody cares about the Sudanese, but the Jews are so successful and so prominent in many societies that, and of course, they're also the foundation of Western society,
The
let alone
Palestinians are
Israel's.
also very successful. No, I disagree. I think if you look at the Palestinians, the definition of the Arab world is that they are Jews of the Arab world, and they are as successful as the Jews all over the world. By the way,
Yeah,
yes.
where, how? I'm curious. Yeah, I'm not challenging
Do
you.
you, do
I'd
you,
like
do
to
you
know.
know do you know that they have excellent universities in the West Bank and also in Gaza? They have
Oh yeah.
excellent high tech engineers, excellent doctors. They can build and they can create an amazing country to themselves. They need to evolve. But for example, Tulkarem is the most educated district in the West Bank, and not only the West Bank, but in percentage also in the Middle East.
Hmm.
Or something like 50% of the Palestinian Authority, the officials are from Tulkarem. The last prime ministers are all from Tulkarem.
Hmm.
It's a highly educated district.
So, but back to your point about why not? Why no attention for Sudan or Syria or Yemen or any of these kinds of places? I mean, it does. I think it does have strongly to do with the fact that Israel is involved heavily with the Palestinians and not with the other ones, right? And um,
I do,
and the Jews
I do know.
playing a central role in the Christian story as well as obviously Islam.
You know,
Plus, I will say one last thing is that the story of Israel is probably one of the most interesting stories that we've ever experienced in the last 100 years. I mean, if you really think that the Jews were nothing for 2,000 years, and then they come back and now they've built this incredible. It's a miracle, right? It's this. We take it for granted, but my God, it's an absolutely crazy story,
yes,
and
but
so
one
so
thing,
it's super interesting to follow.
Kobe, one thing I want to add, okay? People need to understand that as we grow, our Palestinian neighbors grow. And if the opposite happens, it also has a huge impact on them.
Mm-hmm.
Because, now, for example, my business, I'm stuck with my business, okay? No deals, no nothing. So if my situation is bad, when I'm talking to my friends in the West Bank, their situation is 3 times
Worse,
worse.
right?
Actually, we are growing side by side.
Mm-hmm.
And our economy, and actually their economy, not their economy is dependent on us.
Yep.
Their access and movement is dependent on us. Their future is dependent on us. So all the people who protest against us in the world, or all the people who ask that we will vanish, it means they also ask for the same Palestinians that they support to vanish also with us. As weird
Oh
as it sounds.
no, it's not. In fact, all these people who want Israel to go away or the right of return or all these sorts of silly ideas, they never actually take the next step, which is to imagine, well, what does that actually mean in practice? Like, let's say, you have all these Palestinians who are in the West Bank or Gaza, and they say, okay, you can go back to your old homes in Jerusalem or wherever it is, and they find this radically different place than what their grandparents described to them how it was. And what are they supposed to go? Just go back into those buildings and just like set up camp where people are already living. They've got business. Like it's completely disruptive. It makes no sense. It's insane.
Kobe, your family name
Um,
is Ben Melech.
yes,
Originally, your family is from where, if I may ask?
I looked it up once in Spain.
Ben Melech is Spain, but yes, it was 500 years ago. They immigrated to Morocco. Ben Melech, I think it's
Um,
Morocco.
I don't know. So my father's Greek, and his I think from in that area, Greece slash Turkey. What
Okay.
is today Turkey?
Do you know how
Like
many
they spoke Ladino in the
Ladino? So
house.
it's Spain. Do you know how many? Do you know how many Jews came from Morocco, Yemen, Tunisia, Algeria? Should they also go back to their houses there?
No,
Why not?
horrible idea
Why?
for a
I'm not
variety of
saying I'm
reasons.
not saying I'm not saying to leave. I'm just saying about it's their houses. Do you know how many people I know that had to have to leave everything there? A fortune that they left there. At
Yes.
least, at least that they will be compensated for that. At least. So the
No.
moment, why not? People left a fortune in Iraq. I know Jewish families that left fortune, millions of dollars of gold, worth in gold, diamonds in Iraq.
Hmm.
What about that?
I don't think that.
Let's just forget about it.
Yes, in a sense, yes. I mean, I think that that's probably the smartest, most practical
Okay. So
strategy
the
for
same.
so many problems in the world.
So the same. So the same
Racism,
thing. So the same thing should
anti-Semitism.
happen. So the same thing is also equal with the Palestinians. Okay.
Yes.
They should
I don't think.
live. They should live where they live now. They should become pragmatic and forget about the idea of the right of return because, and they need to live with the consequences of what actually they started.
Yes, and I also don't think that um, rewarding me for the crimes that happened to my family or the crimes that happened to anyone else's family 100, 200, 300 years ago. helps me in any way regain my dignity and fulfilling my potential as an individual in the world.
So
I
if
don't
you
think so.
agree, if you accept that, I accept that. So let's do the same thing with our Palestinian neighbors. Same.
Sure,
Okay.
sure, but instead we have academics, movie stars, journalists who infantilize them and encourage this silly strategy, this silliness in a way of thinking about. It's very demeaning to the individual strength and character of anyone to say the right thing to do is to arbitrarily fix and indemnify crimes that happened 100 years ago, right? That have, yes, they have some impact on, like, all of history is bearing down on us at all times, but that still doesn't strip us of our free will and our ability to choose how to act and to choose to be better. And to think that, our life is suddenly going to be better until some strangers make that choice for us is not a good way to live. It's just not. It's not going to work out for you. And I think that's really the. I hate the way that this discussion always just sort of disintegrates in tribal lines, right? Where it's like we forget that these people are just actually people, and I'm all about empowering the individual. I don't particularly give a shit if it's an Arab or a Jew. I mean, yes, I'm Jewish, and yes, that's where I feel like my most comfortable. But I think you would agree with me, Grisha, that if Palestinians are good and they're focusing on themselves and on improving themselves and making things better for themselves and their family and their community and their city and so on and so forth, then we're going to have a great time in the Middle East,
I
right?
agree.
Jews and Arabs are going to be rocking, and we're going to be partying, and we're going to be developing and competing against one another, but peacefully. Because ultimately, it's not about focusing on other people and how they should improve. It's about improving yourself. It's the only thing we can control.
I wanna translate something that I read, if I may. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, there was a guy, a media, a Moroccan guy, the brother Rashid.
Oh, yeah. I like him.
I don't know if you read what he wrote,
No.
but he said he has a lot to say about a nation that admires. I don't know how to say it in English. חלאות, how to say it in English? חלאות, המין האנושי.
I don't know. But Brother Rashid used to be like an anti-Semite, right? He used to hate Jews, and then he sort of figured it out that it's a really silly idea. We're talking about that guy, right?
He said that a nation that admires killers like Sinwar
Mm-hmm.
in Nasrallah, uh, they are exactly the opposite. The opposite than a country like the Emirates, that the heroes of this country, this nation, is people who deal with philosophy that contributed to humanity.
Mm.
Now, I wanna translate it a little bit, okay, if you don't mind.
Okay.
What kind of a nation is that Sinwar is their hero? Jordanians that cry for the death of Sinwar in front of the Israeli embassy in Ramat Ammon. Fatah that they sympathize with the death of Sinwar.
Mm.
Football supporters, El Raja in Morocco, that raise up the picture of Sinwar as a hero in a game. In Palestine Square in Tehran, his picture on a high building. In Yemen, there are some demonstrations or sympathizing with the grief in Gaza. The same, it's like, what is wrong with them? The same nation that their heroes are not space investigators, that they are not scientists, that they are not winning Nobel Prize in physics or in chemistry, that they are not inventors, or they are not improving with their inventions and their smart way of thinking, new things. Like, for example, we offered the world this technology of creating new water, and this technology is all over the world, so we can create water today with a device from air and water from the sea. Okay.
Yeah.
And a minute before he died, the Sinwar, throwing a stick on a drone, and they look at it and they admire him. So the moment this nation, or any nation, will start admiring the people who promote humanity, who bring an added value to the culture of that state, who are the cultural heroes of improving the society, this is when they will start evolving. And it's all about, a stick. It's like the stick of Moses that succeeded to cut the Red Sea to two.
Hmm.
This is how they look at him, and it makes me sad. Honestly, it makes me sad that during my lifetime I will not be able to see that progress, or that change between us and our neighbors, because we are here forever and they are here forever. They will not vanish and we will not vanish.
Yeah.
And I really hope that as my neighbors, my expertise is Gaza, West Bank, and what's in between, and I live in between. And I would want to see my neighbors evolving and looking at me not as an enemy, but as a neighbor that they want to live side by side with him and to enjoy from the benefits or the added value of each one of, you know, maybe it will surprise the audience, but my best friend today, my best friend, is not somebody from the IDF, is not somebody that lives here near me in my neighborhood. After my wife, my best friend is a guy from Ramallah that I hosted in my house with his family before the war. Yes, because he is the guy that I worked with him for almost 5 years, and my life were in his hands for 5 years.
Hmm.
And yes, and I consider him today my best friend.
Why? Just curious, but what about him? Describe him for me. Like, what is it in him that you admire?
I would say it in Yiddish, he's a mensch.
Hmm.
He's a human being. He believes in life. He believes in he doesn't look, he's not looking at me as a Jew, or I would not look at him as a Christian, okay, or as an Arab. It's like we are both human beings and we see life and reality as normal human beings.
Hmm. So it dawned on me actually, as I was ranting, that this belief in oneself, right? That this notion that if you tried your best, then you could be your best, is very scary to most people. Most people are too scared to take risks, too scared to be themselves, to say what they actually think.
It's normal.
Yeah, it's normal, but it has consequences, right? And
Of course.
in free societies, where you can sort of paper over that frustration, right? That you want to achieve some dream, but then you stop yourself because you think, oh no, what about the financial risk, and what about this, and what about that? You come up with all sorts of excuses not to actually try to achieve your dreams in life. You can more or less manage it by, taking a vacation or buying a nice house, or going on TikTok and Twitter, whatever, right? You can distract yourself from what's actually going on in your life. And you can have a nice job, and you can be a lawyer or a doctor or whatever the hell it is that that people do. But in societies where that none of that stuff is available to you, and we're all human, and especially as men, we all have ambition and we have dreams. And if all the avenues to get to achieving your dreams are shut off from you because the people in charge are psychopathic and the most cynical people in the world, you all you see is a world that is cruel and unjust and run by by it's power dynamics. It's all power games. There's nothing fair about it. There's nothing meritocratic about it. And so you have two choices, right? You could either join it or just be crushed into the small ant that's you just swallowed. And then if you think about that, like you were discussing about I think it was like the 5,000 civilians who marched into Israel on October 7th.
And I forgot to
Think of
mention the ones who were happy when
right,
the hostages were
exactly.
brought and they celebrated.
Exactly, exactly. So even those so-called civilians who marched into October 7th, if if you just think about like the kind of family that they were raised in, you could probably imagine that the father, is one of those many, let's say 80% or so, who were just crushed by the system. That they, too weak to stand up and say something because Hamas has a gun to their heads of their families or whatever. And so they shrink. They just shrink into some nothingness because it's too dangerous. It's too risky. As I said, all the excuses that you say to yourself. Now, yes, it is more dangerous, but still, you have life and you have your potential, and you're not going to meet it. And that, generally speaking, universally speaking, that affects everyone. It does. It tears at you from the inside if you're not working towards it. And that tearing up inside, like it comes out, it bursts out in ways like if you can't control it, it's going to control you. And so there are some people that just choose terrorism because they see, they see like they see the posters, guys who the what do you call it, the martyrs, as an exalted figure in society. And it's like, okay, well, if I'm going to be ambitious, I might as well do that because what else is there? It's not like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or whoever, right? The inventor of the next cure for cancer is coming out of Gaza. It's impossible, the way things are. And but jihad it's there. It's readily available to anyone, and it brings so-called honor to the family or whatever because
And it's
the whole
also about money.
yeah, of
Don't
course,
forget that,
absolutely,
because you cannot lead that process only with ideology. It must be supported with money.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
and this is
exactly,
actually what
exactly.
Hamas also did. They got the money from Iran, but they also used the Western way. There was an industry that was developed in Gaza until now. It's called begging. Okay, they are masters of begging. They know how to
Hmm.
beg. People in Gaza during the war made thousands of euros, of dollars, only by a simple. I don't know how there are platforms that they know how to do it, and people continue sending money and feeding the monster. So actually, we Israel, okay, and I consider myself as part of the West. We are the ones who fed the monster that they will be able to present that jihad is a better, easier, simpler way.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it must be also, we also must judge ourselves. We need to change also our behavior, our strategy as Israel and as the West. Okay? And if at the end of this war, and I don't know when it will happen, okay? Maybe in a month, maybe in a year. It looks like it will last another year, if you ask me. But at the end of that year, Gaza must be reconstructed, but in a totally different way.
What
With
do you think? How so?
inspectors on the ground. For any dollar that will enter, they will need to show proof.
Hmm.
Simple as it is. And if
Yeah.
not, if there's no proof, there's no money.
Hmm.
Simple. By the way, just look at it. Our biggest ally, the United States. They stopped sending bombs to us, telling us, if you do that, you will not get that. Is that a very clear equation?
Yeah.
So the same thing, let's do it there. Kobe, I'm sorry, but I have to drive.
No worries, man. I appreciate the time, man.
We
This
are
was
talking for
awesome.
almost 2 hours, and we could. I believe that we could talk for another 4 hours.
For sure.
So
For
maybe
sure.
we
Grisha,
we
good
will
to
do
see
that
you,
next
man.
time. Good to see you
Yeah.
also.
Be well, man. Take care.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.